Let's get started with a fun blend. This is a vintage Hope chest that I have had back in my furniture stash. I started out with the Pixie Magical Chalk paint in Blackberry Cobbler. Isn't it yummy? OMG. Such a pretty blue color. And I gotta say, this paint goes on rather smoothly. This is just my first coat, and the coverage is pretty good with just the first coat. So I am using my Blue Wave Paint Pixie brush. It lays out paint fabulously. I went ahead and started to do the top of the Hope chest with a different color. I'm going to end up blending this piece in the long run. So I went ahead and used some Chai Latte, which is the tan color, and Sugared Glass, which is the greenish blue color. When I mixed it with the Chai Latte, I got this gorgeous like sea glass, sugared glass. I mean, it's gorgeous. The tan and the green together, so fun. So then I went ahead and thought, well, let's blend the front of this. So I took the colors that I use in the top, the Sugared Glass and the Chai Latte, and the Blackberry Cobbler, and incorporated them together. I'm grabbing my water girl here because when you blend paint, you've got to have movement, and water is what helps you get the movement in your piece. I am just using my Blue Wave still, which is the Paint Pixie flat type of brush. It's great for blending. Actually, it's my favorite brush to use for blending pieces like this, that Paint Pixie and the Paint Pixie line. So I'm just going to dip back and forth in my containers. I've got Blackberry Cobbler in one, I've got the Sugared Glass and the Chai Latte in the other, and I'm just going to kind of just keep going and blending and going and blending. Do the same thing back on the top. I kind of decided that I wanted to keep the top a little bit lighter, so I didn't add the Blackberry Cobbler in the top. I am going to grab another color though here at the end of this. I'm going to grab a green at the end and incorporate it because I thought it was a little blah and it needed a third color. But I didn't really want to add the dark blue, so I thought, well, let's lighten it up. So I'm still going to town here with the Sugared Glass and the Chai Latte. Of course, the Chai Latte being the tan color, the Sugared Glass being that beautiful blue-green color. So it's kind of just blending really well on the second coat. Just going over, trying to just get my coverage kind of where I want it. Just play with it a little bit. I am going to throw in a green here in a minute, and that is going to be Sour Apple. So the Magical Chalk paint has a great color blendability. It works really well with a little bit of water. And remember, we use our Water Girl Fine Mist Sprayer to get us some extra movement within our paint. That's how we get the paint to move. Now my heater's on in my back room. Here comes the Sour Apple. So the paint does dry out a little bit quicker. I've got one of those big, humongous gas industrial heaters. So it blows right over the top of this. That's where the water comes into effect. Now, if you're doing this in the hot summer heat, same thing. Use your water bottles, you guys, and make sure you're getting the Water Girl Fine Mist Sprayer because that one just gives you the right amount of water. You don't want to power wash and get drips on it, unless that's the look you're going for. But that works so great. So I'm just kind of blending all the colors together. I thought that I would concentrate on using the Sour Apple a little bit more on the back just to give it a highlight. I thought, what the heck, let's stick with the Sour Apple and add it to the front to tie everything together. I went ahead and I was grabbing a paper towel while I was off screen for a minute and dabbing it. So I kind of wanted to use it as a dry brush effect on the top of this. So my brush, and I'm still using the Blue Wave, she's not very saturated with paint. And can I tell you guys that I have not switched out my paint brush at all. I am using the same paintbrush that I started with. Yes, one paintbrush, every single blend. You can wipe it off on a paper towel if the color gets too saturated and you're not happy with it. There's no need to have, 10 different paintbrushes. Use the same one. I'm going to dab it off a little bit on my paper towel so that it's more of a dry brush effect. Super fun to do this. Now it's kind of tying the front with the top. Now the top is still drying and this is still got some wet paint on it. So I'm just kind of lightly taking it over and running it over the curbs. I am just getting a little bit more of that Sour Apple You know, you'd sometimes think that some of the colors don't go together, but when you start to blend, wow, all of a sudden they just pop off the face of the piece, right? Before it was just kind of flat. Now I'm adding a little bit of pop of color. With that sour apple, it's just the right hint of color to add a little pizzazz to the front of this vintage Hope chest. Just gonna keep going. I made a little mistake right there where I added a little too much sour apple, got on my piece, so I'm gonna come back in and blend this whole side again. You know what? It's only paint. Paint is so forgiving. If you guys mess up like I just did, you know what? Just add a little more and blend it again. It's pretty good. It's pretty easy. So just do that. Blackberry cobbler to the rescue. So we went ahead and added some more blackberry cobbler in there and just started working on the blend again and just starting to blend it onto the piece. And it's wet, and as soon as it dries, it's going to match the other side because the other side's already dry. At this step, I went ahead and took a piece of 220 sandpaper. See all that beautiful detail on that? I wanted to distress a little bit. Sandpaper can be your friend in this, where 220 is not a super hard grip. And if you just catch the edges, it'll just lightly distress the edges of your piece. This is a great way to do and to get a little bit of that natural wood to show through. Now remember, I'm doing this prior to actually placing wax on the piece. The next step, I like to always smooth out my paint. Now, chalk paint will have a little bit of a gritty feel because of the chalk minerals in it. So I just took a piece of 220, went over where I just blended, and it looks like I kind of messed it up, but I didn't because I'm still gonna add wax. Now I'm gonna grab my Paint Pixie clear wax. I'm using the Cera wax brush now. Can you see the difference? This wax goes on like a creamy, dreamy, amazing, beautiful finish. I'm just going to put a small light coating over the paint. You don't have to go up and down. You can circle. You can go whatever you want. Just make sure to cover the paint. This is what's going to seal your paint and give it the prettiest finish you have ever seen. I'm going over to grab my big buffer. Now my Buffy, and she's clean. She just got some stain from the last paint I used on her. I'm just going over, and what this does is it totally burnishes and highlights and buffs out. Do you see the difference? The left side has wax. The right side does not. Huge, huge difference. The wax will deepen your colors. It will bring it back to true because when I sanded it down, I kind of dulled it up. But now the wax deepens it. Now I just grab my Paint Pixie Magical Chalk wax in the dark brown. And I'm going to go ahead and add this to the detailing. What this is going to do is give that little bit of scroll work some definition, right? You don't want it to be flat. You want it to pop off the front of your piece. Now, it's very subtle. It's not something that you're like, whoa, but if you don't have it on there, you can tell. It's all these subtle little things and the layers that you do that make your piece so sensational. The left side has wax. The right side does not. Huge difference. We're going to go ahead and wax the right side now. So we're going to basically do this for the whole piece. I've already distressed. I've already smoothed out my finish. When I do the top of the piece also, I will do the same thing. I will take the 220 sandpaper. I will smooth out my finish. I will wax over the top. I always like to wax. I actually prefer waxing over any kind of a top coat sealer over paint. That's just my personal preference. A lot of people like to use a clear coat sealer, which you definitely could on this piece if you wanted to, and we have an amazing clear coat sealer. So I'm going to take my big Buffy again and just give her a once over polish. If you could feel this through my screen, you would be like, ooh la la, because it is so soft and smooth. Like, this is what makes a furniture piece exquisite. This is what will set you apart from everybody else. Take the time, put a little light sand, put that wax on, and step back and just admire your work. I am still going to add a little bit of brown wax on this side because we only did the left side. Now we're doing the right side. And isn't this so fun? This is going to add the dimension and detail, like I said, that we didn't have prior. We're just going to wipe it off lightly. Since we've clear waxed already, we're not going to stand the chance of getting it to stain the paint. It's going to come right off, and it's only going to be in those little edges. I sure hope you guys enjoyed my video. Thanks for watching.